Hi guys, in this video I want to just go through what I've been up to for the last few days. I've just finished up a fantastic weekend of recording with my band in the new studio space, and I didn't really film anything while I was doing it, but I took a few photos that I'm going to go through and narrate over just to explain what was going on and the idea behind it. And I still have the guitars set up, the guitar amps, because we haven't finished the overdubs yet. That'll be another weekend along with the vocals. So yeah, let's get through it. I'll just go through the mic setups for the recording. So the first image we have is the drums setup, essentially, with a bit of an overview of the room. You can't really make out much of anything, to be honest, but you can see there's technically 4 overheads. I think there's a better picture coming up of that, so we'll go for that later. 4 overheads, which are 2 condensers, 2 small capsule condensers, 1 large capsule condenser, and a ribbon mic. And then there's 2 SM57s on the snare, 57 on the rack tom, and a 57 on the ground tom. And then there is the T-Bone DM1. The overhead small capsules came in the T-Bone DC 1200 kit from Thomann. It's just a very basic entry-level microphone kit. The next picture shows just a basic setup of one of the guitarists. Yeah, so it's a rip-off of the Sennheiser E906. He brought it with him. I don't have the exact model number here, but it's one of the cheap T-Bone versions of them. It's also being run through a DI. It's the Behringer Ultra G DI. They're nice enough. With DIs though, it's hard to go wrong. And the next picture, we have my dog, who is also lying in front of the bass rig. The bass was recorded mic'd up with an SM57, which is not ideal, but I usually work under the general rule of thumb that you can throw a 57 in front of anything and it will sound alright. And it did. It worked out grand. You can also see here that my bass traps, the whole modular design is being used to kind of surround the bass cab to just improve the room sound, although the microphone sound will be probably lower in the mix than the DI sounds, because I just prefer a DI sound on a bass. The amp itself was a Fender Rumble 100 watt, which has a decent enough DI out the back of it, so that was used. And when it's mixed, I'll probably put it through the BOD SansAmp emulation plugin, just for saturation. He also had this Alpha Omega Dark Glass pedal, which is just a fantastic kind of grit and preamp for bass, which also has its own DI out, so we used that as well. And this is just a close-up of the mic placement. It was just trial and error. It's the best way to go about it anyway for everything. It sounded pretty good there, but I mean, the DI signal will be favored in the mix anyway. Here we have the second guitarist, which is me, of course, just for the rough tracking setup with the Sennheiser E906. Just kind of placed haphazardly. It was also DI'd through my Behringer Vamp Pro, just for the basic tracks, which probably will end up on the album somewhere, but we're going to do the overdubs as well, just to tighten things up. Next is just my studio desk, where you can see the main interface is the Scarlett 18i20 on the top there on the right hand side. Then underneath it is my M-Audio 2626 Profire, which is like the second 8 tracks. I think the drums were mostly plugged into that, which was then transferred by ADAT to the Sapphire. Then underneath there you can see the Vamp Pro. And here we have a close-up of the ground tom, just a 57 pointed kind of midway between the rim and the center at an angle slightly. Just again moved around through a bit of experimentation until I found a sound I liked. And you get a slightly better shot of the overheads along with the drummer sitting down and the other guitarist standing up. Oh yeah, here's a better shot now. So you can see that the T-Bone DC1200 overheads, I don't think they have a name themselves, they're just part of that kit. They're arranged in an XY kind of configuration, as centered as I could get them over the kit, and then obviously plugged into an individual track in the DAW and panned hard left, hard right. So they get the main stereo image of the drum kit. Then they're backed up by the Rode NT1A, or NT2A, sorry, which is just a decent kind of prosumer level condenser microphone used as a mono overhead pointing downwards at a slight angle towards the cymbals. Then to the left of that we have the T-Bone ribbon mic, the T-Bone RM700 ribbon microphone, which is a figure of 8, which means it picks up from either side of it the way it is there, and it's hung over the cymbals like the rest. And actually that is the real standout of the overheads for the kit. It sounds fantastic. Those microphones are very cheap and they work really well as overheads and on guitar and piano. I often use it as part of a mid-side array, but here it was just thrown over. I basically just used as many tracks as I had available, and there was one left over, so I decided to plug that in and it worked out fantastically. Here we have the bass drum, which is again part of that T-Bone kit, just the bass microphone from that kit, placed in halfway inside the bass drum, angled slightly up and towards the center of the top, if that makes sense. It got a pretty good sound. It will be augmented by some effects, and I will probably mix in a sample. If you look at my video of how to replace drums in Reaper with EZdrummer, yeah, I'll probably do a bit of mixing there with the original signal and a sample to kind of give it a bit of extra pop. Next we have the snare. So you can see we've two 57s, one close enough to the rim pointing at an angle on the top, and underneath it's further another 57 further in towards the actual snares, pointed upwards at an angle also. So again, when I'm mixing, it's going to be a balancing act between the two of them, and I might mix them in with a sample as well. I'm not 100% sure yet, but the bottom mic got a fantastic signal there. It's really about getting a sweet spot where you can hear the snares, kind of the snap off of it, while also maintaining a bit of resonance to make it sound nicer. And then just the rack tom, again it's another 57 pointed down at an angle. Just basically moved around until I found a sweet spot that sounded good. Then it's just my pedal setup. I think there's a video of that pedal board up recently. I went through the actual signal chain, although I think I did change it since then. The TC Electronics sub-and-up is actually placed before my Electro-Harmonic silencer now, because it was picking up a lot of noise. I think I actually had it after my dirt pedals. It was after the loop in the silencer. So if you had that on while also having the distortion on before it, its tracking went haywire because it just can't handle that range of frequencies. All the the higher harmonics that come with distortion. And now we have the setup for the overdubs, which we started but didn't finish today. You can see as well the rearrangement of the bass traps behind it. I made them modular and smaller so that they could be picked up and moved around and built into this kind of a thing, which is like a sound shield behind it, or a half of an isolation booth, I guess. And it just really improves the recording, because you can basically rearrange the room and rearrange the acoustic treatment of the room to suit any application. So here we can see, again, it's also DI'd. That's not obviously visible here, but it's also still plugged in through the Behringer V-Amp Pro. And then we have the Sennheiser E906 just hanging in front of it. Then 257s, one beside the Sennheiser, which is basically pointing directly at the cone, midway between the center and edge, closer to the center really. And then one angled towards the center, placed in the middle between the edge and the cone. And it's really just, those are three positions which got pretty different sounds, and all of which are good sounding, but I'm not sure which will work best with the mix. So I'm going to record all of it and pick and choose later on in the mixing phase. And then it's just a slightly further back shot where you can see the setup a bit better with the bass traps and everything. And then I did something similar for the other guitarist, the same kind of setup with the bass traps, and then again it's the T-Bone rip-off of the Sennheiser E906, but it's actually a pretty good rip-off, it gets a good sound. And then 257s in a similar configuration, but there's two different speakers here, so I favored the top one, but I used the bottom one for the dead-on straight 57 position, just to get a slightly different sound again. And again, it's DI'd with the Behringer Ultra G. And here's just a close-up of those microphone positions on the second guitarist's cab. And that's all there is to that. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was useful to someone or interesting to someone. This is the first real serious recording I've done in this room. Hopefully there will be much more of that as the years roll on. We're already planning, well, we still have to finish this one first. We have to do the overdubs and the vocals, which should be fun. The setup for the overdubs is already set up. And then when we're doing the vocals, we will do something similar with the bass traps. I will build a kind of a half vocal booth. And I also have one of those mic screen shields, one of these guys, the T-Bone. It just says T-Bone on it. It doesn't even have like a model number. But yeah, it's just a screen that you place behind the microphone to try and get a better sound, less room reflections, less, I don't know, you know what I mean. And then just mixing and mastering. I'll probably be doing the mastering as well, to be honest, because we're very DIY. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and check back next time. Bye.